Hello, I am Jaime Elizondo, and you all are welcome to this podcast. It makes me very happy to see that more and more young people are getting involved in the fascinating world of livestock farming. You see, farming without livestock becomes dependent on costly inputs very fast. If we are serious about improving our land fertility and its natural productivity, we need to include livestock in our land, and livestock that have their grazing correctly managed by us. Before we start, I want to remind you that next week I will be holding our free masterclass, Triple Your Stocking Rate with Large Pastures and Thriving Livestock. It is time to transform your property with the lush pastures in fertile soil created by thriving livestock. This event is your ticket to making informed decisions that will revolutionize your graze livestock enterprise. Prepare to witness improvements in both land health and productivity, so save your spot by registering at www.rwranching.com/masterclass. This class is free and it is live via Zoom. You have two options to choose from. One is this coming Tuesday, February 27th at 6 p.m. Central Time, and the next one is on Wednesday, February 28th at 12 p.m. Central Time. So make sure you register and get the Zoom link and be able to participate in the live Q&A session at the end. Once again, the link is www.rwranching.com/masterclass, all in one word. Okay, let's begin. I will talk about a myth that I hear and read about all the time. Now, if this is the first time that you're listening in or you haven't listened in a while, last week I shared one of the most common reasons people hesitate or don't move forward in implementing the total grazing program. I am on a mission to encourage and support as many people as possible to implement the total grazing program correctly in their land because I have seen firsthand how life changing and business changing that can be. And I had seen it firsthand. Of course, not only on my own ranches and for the people I have consulted for, but with hundreds of my students as well. So the most common reason people don't move forward to implement the total grazing program is that they may have heard that total grazing doesn't leave residual behind to protect the soil surface from heat or cold, which was covered in my previous podcast. And number two reason, which is the one we will cover today, is if I graze too hard, will I degrade my land? Let's start with finding where does this idea come from. I think it comes from an experiment done by Professor Kreider over 70 years ago, where he demonstrated that under continuous grazing, you shouldn't graze more than half of the plant so that its roots would not shorten or disappear from the pasture. Sadly, most all grazing gurus still follow that, even though we now have electric fences and can manage much better than under continuous grazing. And I say that I think it comes from there because all those who keep repeating this quote it in their bibliography, all of them. Unfortunately, people take that as a fact. And although now we have electric fences and we can imitate nature by taking into account the basic needs of the plant, knowing its physiology in depth, nothing has changed in these 70 years, and that continues to be repeated and referred to that experiment, which no longer has significance in the modern grazing world. Today, I am going to show you how fast and high harvest efficiency grazing or non-selective grazing as close as possible is the best way to manage your pastures to achieve the highest profitability and the fastest improvement of your soils and pastures. I ask that if you know of someone who could benefit from listening to this message, please send it to them, as this can help them a great deal to achieve harmony between their pasture, their cattle, and their economic needs, or CHIP. If you are one of my total grazing program students, you know by doing it yourself that the total grazing program, which includes high harvest efficiency grazing of your grass, is how fully recovered grasses respond best when you follow the indications detailed in the online course. First, we must know that in the total grazing program, we seek as a priority to create deep and fat roots of our desirable species. Very different from the image of the bare ground after a total grazing, right? You should also take into account that by doing total grazing, the number of cow days harvested per acre is much higher than if they only consume 30 or 50%. And this is what allows us to give longer rest periods and avoid overgrazing, which is regrazing a plant before it has fully recovered. I'm going to repeat, this is so important. This is what allows us to give longer rest periods and avoid overgrazing, which is regrazing a plant before it has fully recovered. This is very important when grass growth slows down due to a short-term drought or a cold spell. Okay, we must also know how humus or slow-cycling organic matter is formed. Humus is the true fertility of your soil, and it is created thanks to the high-energy liquid returned via the roots that feed soil microorganisms, which bodies are later converted into humus. Up to 80% of new humus produced per acre per year is created this way. As all the energy produced is created by photosynthesis, we know the importance of the quantity of green leaves per square yard. We must also know that the stems do not photosynthesize, but they do consume energy by respiring, so the ratio of leaves to stem in the regrowth is very, very important. So what type of grazing will produce more leaves in the regrowth? A selective grazing where they leave the stems behind, or total grazing where your livestock consume leaves and stems entirely? It is clear that when the stems are removed, the regrowth will be higher in leaves than if the stems are left behind, consuming part of the energy produced by the leaves that are regrowing. And if, as we saw before, the energy that is left after respiring is partially returned to feed the microorganisms that not only are eventually converted into humus, but also make available to the plant the nutrients in the soil that would otherwise be unavailable. Could it be that is the reason that the leaf-to-stem ratio in your forages is very, very important? Yes. We also have to consider that our livestock are going to perform better by consuming more leaves. So again, we find another reason to do total grazing instead of selective rotational grazing. And everything that I'm talking today is about a high stocking rate. We need a high stocking rate because the number of productive animals we can maintain at a low cost per farm or ranch per year determines our profits. And without profits, we cannot improve the land. Now, I want to tell you that it is important to defer pastures in area for the dry or cold seasons. And by grazing with a high harvest efficiency, this is possible and will be of higher quality than if stockpiled after selective rotational grazing. Why? Because the deferred grass has not been grazed since it was allowed to rest. Its quality is much higher. In addition, the energy reserves in the roots are intact because they have not been used in stems respiring through the dry season. So the regrowth after a total grazing of a deferred field will be more vigorous once growing conditions return. This has allowed me to maintain a high stocking rate without incurring in overgrazing, even in years of hard drought, where it only rained for 2 weeks throughout the whole year, and at the end of the growing season, I had 6 times the average stocking rate for the area. Under total grazing, with high harvest efficiency, the land is not left bare because 80 to 90% of the available forage is consumed, yes. But remember that production is much higher due to the longer rest periods because we do not overgraze. We only graze fully recovered pastures. So the litter left after grazing is sufficient to protect the land from the sun and high temperatures. Strong living roots of desirable plants close together are much more important than leaving a lot of residual for erosion control and soil improvement. Conclusion and summary. Number one, the idea of leaving 50% of the plant as residue after grazing comes from an experiment made 70 years or so ago for set stocking when electric fences were not popular. Only barbed wire permanent fences. That idea is now obsolete with current knowledge, and we do not need to continue to be bound to it. 2. Under the total grazing program, we seek as a priority to create deep and fat roots in our desirable species plants. And in our livestock, our priority is to have them in good body condition and performing best. 3. Grazing with a high harvest efficiency. Our fully recovered plants allows for an increase in the stocking rate while improving the leaf-to-stem ratio in the regrowth. 4. The leaf-to-stem ratio in the plant determines productivity since the green leaf produces energy by photosynthesis while the stems consume energy by respiring. The energy left after respiring can be used for higher productivity and to create slow-cycling organic matter, or humus, with the bodies of soil microorganisms fed by the high-energy exudates of the roots. No other type of grazing achieves a better leaf-to-stem ratio in the regrowth than high harvest efficiency grazing or total grazing. 5. Our livestock performs better by consuming more leaves because the leaves have greater digestibility than stems. So it is also convenient for our livestock to produce more leaves per square yard. 6. This high-efficiency harvest allows us to defer in area entire fields to use them under total grazing in the difficult dry or cold seasons. 7. After total grazing, with a high harvest efficiency, the land is not left bare because the 10 to 20% of the much higher pre-grazing forage mass that remains in the underground is enough to cover it. Remember that since the field is left to rest for a longer time, with a greater quantity of leaves, production per acre is greater, and the residue that remains after grazing is more than sufficient. 8. The most important thing, and that almost nobody considers, is the strong roots of desirable living plants that are close together, which the total grazing program creates. And these are much more efficient in preventing erosion than the amount of residue left by selective grazing. We are going to cover this in the masterclass and share with you how you can implement the total grazing program in your operation for this coming spring growing season. Now is really the best time to implement this program because you will get the most benefit right from the start, and in the dry or winter season, you will be getting even better results, saving on hay. The class is free and it is live via Zoom. We have two options to choose from. One is this coming Tuesday, February 27 at 6 p.m. Central Time. The next one is on Wednesday, February 28 at 12 p.m. Central Time. So sign up to save your seat at www.rwranching.com/masterclass. I will send you the Zoom link and a couple of reminders so you do not miss this. It truly will change how you see your grazing and how you can build more soil and more abundant leafy forage. So make sure you register to get the Zoom link to be able to participate in the live Q&A session. Once again, the link is www.rwranching.com/masterclass. See you there.